So that is right here, 113, right over Indianola, and this is going to be tracking off to the northeast. Let's go ahead and get a look at the timing of that, get a new track on this. Bringing this forward, here's our circulation over Indianola. I'm going to bring this forward over Carlton Landing. Canadian arrival time going to be 6:32, Carlton Landing 6:40, Longtown 6:44, and if we were to continue this past the tornado warning, Enterprise, it would be getting to you just before 7 a.m. Again, this is one of those situations. This morning's setup is very conducive for quick spin-up tornadoes. Not very long lasting in most cases, and you can get those spin-ups happening very quickly. So if you find yourself under one of these tornado warnings, take it seriously. It's probably not going to last that long, maybe 15, 30 minutes at the most, and then you're going to be in the clear. But still, take these tornado warnings seriously. It's early March. We got a lot of spring ahead of us, so might as well get in practice of doing that this morning. Again, Tulsa Metro not included in any of this. New severe thunderstorm warning. We'll get a check of that and then toss it back over to Chief Meteorologist James Adelot. So this is going to be an extension of the main line that we have been tracking with some of those quick spin up tornadoes. Possible we have those tornado warnings stretching from Okmulgee down into Pittsburgh County, almost to McAllister, and then everyone ahead of that line now included in the severe thunderstorm warning, which is in effect until 7:15. Area-wide, these storms are a mess. It's just those of us south of Tulsa, especially south of I-40, have to take these storms a little bit more seriously. Now, Chief Meteorologist James Adelot already in here this morning, came in early right before the tornado warning was issued. He's here tracking it with me.
Yeah, as we continue to look in the metro area, as we stressed, there is no severe weather threat, just downpours in the city. But as we look just to the south of Tulsa right now, I'm going to stop the animation. We're going to go just to the east of Okmulgee because we're seeing another little circulation trying to form. It's not very strong yet, but again, this is kind of what we've seen out of this scenario. Let me go to velocities and I can give you a better look. This is just to the east of the Okmulgee Airport. This is Highway 52 coming north out of Morris up toward Twin Hills School. So we've got some weak circulation here. This is just on the edge of the tornado warning polygon, but we'll watch this closely. Again, the atmosphere is not as conducive for this thing to sustain much rotation. But we're going to watch it really closely. If this tightens up anymore, a tornado warning will be issued that will get up across Highway 16, eventually toward Haskell, and maybe even Leonard in extreme southwestern parts of Wagoner County. So the threat area is staying just to the southeast of Tulsa, but we're watching this area of rotation very closely. Again, we can also look at dual pole Doppler radar. Don't see any indication and don't expect it of any kind of lofted debris with that. But that's a pretty stout little circulation that's just developed in the last couple of minutes. This is northeast of Okmulgee and racing to the northeast right now. I'm going to expand the view just a little bit and kind of give you a better idea of where that is. Again, just to the northeast of Okmulgee. Tulsa's up here, Bixby under the word radar, Bixby in the south Broken Arrow. So circulation will be right here, moving to the northeast, eventually toward Haskell. So we're going to watch this really closely. Moving at about 40 miles per hour, so all of this will be gone pretty quickly as it moves to the northeast. Let's go further south along this line into our tornado warned storms. And again, looking for rotation, here is another area of rotation west of Shakota and along and just north of Interstate 40. That one too is going to be moving to the northeast into parts of southwestern Muskogee County. Let's do a track on that. We're going to take this to the northeast. And if this thing runs at about 35, 40 miles per hour, we're looking at Wainwright, Oaktaha, Beeland, as that gets up in the general direction of Muskogee. So our main threat area for additional tornado warnings will be south of U.S. Highway 62. Earlier, I thought south of Interstate 40, but these have managed to maintain a little bit of their structure even as they crossed over I-40 and moved up toward Highway 62. But I don't expect any of this in the metro area in Tulsa, but that tornado warning does continue and the tornado warning threat too, mainly to the southeast of Tulsa. Let's jump further south along this line. Eufaula now in the latest tornado warning, as meteorologist Laura Mock had said. It looks like some rotation southwest of McAllister right here. That's crossing over the county line between McIntosh and Pittsburgh County. Let's go see if I can get, it does not look like I'm going to get Fort Smith radar to pop on with that, but it looks like some rotation right in here. As we check the orientation of this, again, there's just a little bit of a notch right along the South Canadian River here. And that's going to be moving up toward Eufaula. So again, in Eufaula, out of an abundance of caution, you should take your tornado precautions. I've not seen anything other than some spotty damage from some of these a little earlier. We'll take that to the northeast again, about 35 miles per hour, and that's going to be close to Eufaula and the airport by about 6:43, and eventually further to the north. Now, we do have one core of heavier downpours right here. That also looks like it also may have a little circulation just to the west of Eufaula too. Let's take a little closer look at that right now. Again, it's not as sharp, but that rotation could be moving up toward Highway 150 and eventually toward the Shakota area. But again, it's still a long way away, and the way these things have had the rotation together, they've not stayed really sustained with each of these rotations that we're calling out, generating any kind of threat. New tornado warning that does get up into the city of Muskogee right now, and that will include Haskell and Muskogee as well. Let's get the lowdown on that warning as these storms continue moving to the northeast at about 40 miles per hour. As that continues moving to the northeast, the new tornado warning is in effect until 7:15, but it does include the city of Muskogee too. So if you're in Muskogee, again, out of an abundance of caution, you should take your tornado precautions as this rotation continues to move to the northeast. Again, we've just not seen sustained rotation lasting too terribly long with these, but they do spin up, and they spin up pretty quickly too. So anywhere from the National Weather Service taking this northeast at about 45 miles per hour with several little rotations along that line. Let's zoom in. We'll go to radar. I'll zoom in and we will track all of these circulations. Again, here is one. This one that we talked about east of Okmulgee is not as strong. Southeast of Bald Hill, north of Pumpkin Center, there is some rotation here on the northern edge of that new tornado warning polygon. Let's go further to the south. And further to the south we go in this tornado warning now in Muskogee County. Again, there's some circulation evident close to Council Hill, just to the west of Council Hill. That's going to be moving up toward Wainwright. And then we get into McIntosh County. Here's Pierce and Richardsville, and we've seen some circulation continue here. And that's a little increase in the circulation northwest of Eufaula. We talked about that just a few minutes ago, but you can see some brighter reds here with some brighter greens and blues, and also just to the west of Eufaula. And we look southwest of Eufaula. Some hint we have some circulation here, but it's not quite as evident as what we saw earlier, but the tornado warning does continue in parts of McIntosh County. Let's jump back into the metro area right now too. Again, we have not seen any severe weather threat in Tulsa, but we continue with at least the heavy rain this morning in the metro area too, as some of that just downpours have made things just super soggy with a lot of standing water in the city of Tulsa. Let's jump into, again, southeast of Tulsa where our tornado warnings are in effect. Eufaula and Muskogee, Shakota now with tornado warnings in effect. And further to the south, we've seen this circulation moving out of Atoka County as it moves toward parts of southern Pittsburgh County. The rotation continues, bears watching. Let's take a little closer look at that one too, because that's going to be moving right across the Atoka and Pittsburgh County line. Looks like this one is going to stay just to the south of McAllister. I'll stop the animation. We'll go to velocity right now. And at least looking from Norman, a little messy, but I don't see any kind of really super focus on that rotation, so that's certainly good news. To put the whole map on, we've added tornado watch counties, as we talked about, pushing that threat area just a little north to Highway 62. So Cherokee and Adair County and also Wagner County in the tornado watch been added by the National Weather Service in Tulsa, and this is in effect until 11, but the threat will be gone. Right now it looks like probably 8:30, maybe 9 at the latest before this moves completely out of southeastern Oklahoma. But again, Tulsa not in any watches or warnings, but they do get close. Looking into the metro area, Heaviest rain has managed to slide to the east, but we've got a lot more rain stacked up all the way back west across Creek and Pawnee County, and that's going to continue moving to the northeast. Our tornado warnings continue just to the southeast of Tulsa, where let me stop that, and we'll go ahead and do some tracks on some of these tornado warnings. Again, the circulations are lasting 10-15 minutes, but it's that part of the line that has oriented northwest to southeast that we watch very closely. Do some tracks on these as they move to the northeast. One, going to be taking that up basically into parts of Wagner County toward Jamesville. There's Haskell in the northwestern corner of Muskogee County, Redbird, Porter, Tallahassee in Wagner County. If this holds together, we're talking the threat pushing toward the city of Wagner just after about 7 o'clock. Let's go further to the south along that line. And we did see another circulation that was just to the northwest of Eufaula. That too, as that moves to the northeast at about 40 to 45 miles per hour toward the Bellstar Marina. Shakota by about 646, Oaktahaw 656, Warner 659. You can see Kiefton. And if that circulation holds together, it could be moving into parts of the Muskogee area. That's Davis Airport south of Muskogee at about 706. Further to the south along this line of storms, the circulation in parts of northeastern Atoka County, that's right on the county line. I want to take a zoomed in look at this, and we'll click over to velocity. Again, I'm not seeing as strong of an organized rotation with this right now, but the tornado warning continues in effect. Let me take this just a tiny bit further south. We're looking up in the storm, and there is some rotation up in the storm, but we're looking at about 8,000 feet up right now. Look at this just off screen with high resolution Doppler radar right now and see what that looks like. And I want to look at the vantage point from Fort Smith. It's just a slightly lower look into that storm. It does look like we still have just a tiny bit of rotation south of Highway 43. That would cross the Indian Nation Turnpike south of the Highway 69, that Dallas exit, but it could clip the southeastern part of Pittsburgh County as it moves up in the general direction of northwestern Pushmataha and parts of southern Latimer County right now. Let's check in with Fox 23 meteorologist Laura Mock. Also, I mean, essentially we're playing whack-a-mole with these circulations. They just don't last very long.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, it's along the entire line. You get a little circulation here, a little circulation there. One of them starts to strengthen while the other one starts to weaken. Just want to reiterate your tornado precautions. If you find yourself under one of these warnings today, again, Tulsa right now, not included in that, although I know we've had some reports of some small hail at times. Got a report from my family out in East BA of some small hail hitting the windows, but nothing is severe for the Tulsa Metro. When you take a look at our tornado warnings, they extend through Muskogee County, even into portions of Wagner County. That one going to be in effect until 7:15. We have tornado warnings down here through Eufaula as well. That one's going to be in effect until 7 a.m. What you want to do, make sure you get your shoes on. If you have some helmets, bike helmets, that's great. Get as low as possible as you can in your home and as inside as possible, away from the exterior walls or windows if you can help it. Bathrooms, closets, going to be some of your best options unless you have a basement. That's even better. Let's clear this off and get a closer look in, because last I was looking, it seemed like our Eufaula rotation was probably the strongest one that we had. This is right in McIntosh County, and this is the area that we're watching. So just north of Eufaula, right along 69. This is going to be right between Eufaula and Shakota, so south of I-40. We'll switch back over to velocity. As you take a look at that, yeah, we got some stronger winds in there. The rotation itself does not look to be very tight, but we do have some really strong winds being picked up on the north side of Eufaula. I'll zoom this in just a little bit more for us, and then we're going to put a track on it. All right, so our strongest winds here going to be just on the north side of Eufaula, so right as you're coming into town, east of Highway 69 now. That's where our strongest winds are. This is going to be tracking off to the northeast, closer to Dutchess Landing, eventually approaching the I-40 area. All along this line, we've been watching for just those notches when you're looking at the velocity. So the red and the green right next together. Sometimes it looks like a straight line. Other times it looks very squiggly. That's what we're seeing this morning, and that's what we're watching for. Coming up to the north, we'll look for some of those, and you have kind of a weak one here on the northwest side of Shakota. A weak little squiggle. That's going to be an inflow notch where we may get a rotation trying to develop. You look more to the north. This is north of Boynton, south of Haskell. That's going to be another spot. That is right between Boynton and Haskell, and if that continues off to the northeast, we're going to be hitting the Muskogee Turnpike here, just probably on the north side of Muskogee. There's a couple spots to watch as we continue bringing this forward, and again, I do think Eufaula is probably our strongest storm at the moment. There's a new tornado warning, and this is going to be for that southern rotation that James was just tracking about 5 minutes ago. Situated just on the south side of Pittsburgh County, this rotation is going to be clipping the far southeastern portion of Pittsburgh County, eventually coming into Latimer County, likely south of Wilburton Veterans Colony. If you're there, you should be going ahead and getting your things together in preparation for taking shelter with this tornado warning. If I were in Wilburton, I'd kind of be on high alert with this storm, as again, with these storms, they can kind of start shifting a little bit more to the left as they continue forward. All right, now let's go ahead and get some tracks on these storms as they go forward. We'll start to the south since we're already here. The rotation right now situated just on the southern extent of Pittsburgh County. As that goes forward, we're going to be getting into Yanish, 7:10, Veterans Colony, 7:15, Tallahena, 7:30. We'll clear that off and make our way up the line, and we'll start with this Eufaula storm. Again, we're still seeing some pretty strong winds with that on the north side of town. So I'm going to put the track on this right between Eufaula and Shakota and bring this off to the northeast. Now, right now, this is about to get to the end of that tornado warning. Would not be surprised to see that extended here soon. Dutchess Landing, 6:51, Martin, 7:06, getting to the Webbers Falls Dam, 7:14, and at that point we're going to be into Muskogee County. Let's clear that off, make our way up the line, and you have a few more little notches of rotation making their way through western Muskogee County, eventually possibly getting into Wagner County. All right, now that we got to look at where our rotations are, here's one. If that tracks up into the Wagner area, that's going to be getting into Tallahassee, 6:58, Afton Landing, 7:01, Wagner, 7:08. Again, at this point, we're just kind of looking for small areas of rotation. No guarantee that any of these have a tornado ongoing, but the potential is there with every single little notch. New severe thunderstorm warning. We'll take a look at that here in just a second. I just want to do one more track with these storms. We're going to take a rotation closer to Boynton, bring that forward. We'll try and get Fort Gibson in there. So the timing on this one, if it continues forward and tries to hold together or potentially strengthen. Davis Airport, south side of Muskogee, 7:01. Muskogee just a couple minutes later. Muskogee High School, 7:06. So really right into the heart of Muskogee, right about 7 o'clock. We'd be getting into Fort Gibson, 7:13. All right, let's take a look at the big picture of everything, because we did have that new severe thunderstorm warning, and that is going to be for areas off to the south. We've already seen that severe thunderstorm warning off to the north, and really this entire line, basically from Wagner County through Muskogee County, Haskell County, Latimer County, this stretches almost all the way down to the Red River with severe thunderstorm warnings and tornado warnings too. A lot of these tornado warnings in effect until 7 or 7:15. This is just a messy start for us, but again, Tulsa has been clear of the severe weather and the tornado warnings, but it's still going to be very messy for you as many of you are headed off to work this morning. We do have Chief Meteorologist James Adelot here tracking the storms with me. Again, we're watching every little nook and cranny of this line.
Yeah, we're looking at the northward, the northmost circulation that we've seen. This is just to the southeast of Haskell. I'm looking at the terminal Doppler from Broken Arrow at this storm, and we continue with persistent circulation. It looks like it's right on top of Highway 64, just south of Haskell right now, not quite all the way to the south as the Highway 16 junction here, but that rotation does continue. New tornado warning has just been issued, and that's going to get further to the east in parts of southern Muskogee County. So Warner and Webbers Falls and Gore and north of Porham and also east of Shakota right now for the circulation that has moved up just to the northeast of Eufaula right now. And again, it's been the same theme all morning. Any part of this line that's laid back from northwest to southeast becomes a threat to develop these circulations. Let's take a close-in view. And yeah, you can already pick out that really bright green here. This is just to the south of Shakota. Definitely warrants doing a track on this one as it moves to the northeast. At about, we'll give this a 40-mile-per-hour track. The motion on these has been fairly erratic, so focus more on the path and not the exact times. Our Storm Center coverage continues on KRMG, our radio partners, as we track these what are called QLCS circulations. Warner, 704, Kiefton, 709, McLean by about 711. We're talking the community of McLean, nowhere near the school. And if this holds together, we're looking toward the Webbers Falls Lock and Dam in southern parts of Muskogee County. Let's take a close-in view because this circulation has gotten fairly strong. It looks like as we come in, we switched radar south of Tulsa, but you can pick out where we have reds here and blues here. That implies the circulation has developed just to the south of Shakota. I'm going to move this over and hopefully we can get a little bit better vantage point of this. Again, we're looking just to the south of Shakota. This is going to pass close to, but likely just to the northwest of Dutchess Landing and very close to Shakota. If I'm in Shakota, maybe watching this storm really closely as it moves to the northeast because it's already just to the south of town, and this is going to be crossing Interstate 40 very close to or just to the east of Shakota, between Shakota and Warner. But that is the circulation that we're looking at right here, and this is just to the northwest of Dutchess Landing. Let's go further to the south along this, and again, we get into parts of Pittsburgh County, eastern Pittsburgh County now. There's a little bit of an increased area of convergence just southwest of Hartshorn. I don't think that's risen to the level of big concern yet. We get into this in northwestern corner of Pushmataha County, technically out of our coverage area, but as this continues moving to the northeast, that's going to be putting southern Latimer County eventually in the threat area. This is basically going over Sardis Lake over the next few minutes, and then up toward Yanish, just to the south of Veterans Colony, which is south of Roberts Cave State Park, and Wilburton in Latimer County. Let's go back to velocities, and again, we'll see kind of that same thing where there's a little bit of an orientation change. This whole north-south part, not as big of a concern. When you get into these spots that are leaned back a little bit from northwest to southeast, those are the spots that we're watching, and that's where we have seen the rotations develop. As we look just to the northwest of Hartshorn, again, kind of a straight line here as we look at velocity data, so not seeing any kind of circulation trying to spin up here. We go further north along that line into our next tornado warning, and what's apparent is that we've got that northwest to southeast orientation of this segment of the line. As we check velocity, again, same story, new circulation looks like it's just to the north of Highway 113 and Crowder Hill, but just to the southwest of McAllister. If that continues developing, that's going to be a threat to cause some wind damage in Eufaula. We've already seen a lot of gusty wind, so even if you're not in the path of one of these circulations, these storms have produced quite a bit of gusty wind. We'll see some sporadic power outages with this, but that's part of the area we're going to watch closely. So the tornado warning continues here. Back to reflectivity and back further north along this line, and we get into just southeast of Shakota, and actually it looks like we've got a little embedded hook in there too, and that's a much stronger circulation. That is very close to Shakota right now. First thing I want to do is do a track on this, because this has moved just a little bit to the left of its track. This is very close to Shakota. Let me zoom in right now on that storm, and the main rotation is crossing Interstate 40 right now. Let me drop that tornado warning track. Again, circulation is going to be right in here. So in Shakota, especially southeast sides of Shakota, you need to take your tornado precautions right now. You got seconds to get in shelter. This is going to be crossing 266, crossing Interstate 40, and moving out of McIntosh County as it moves to the northeast. Let's check correlation coefficient with a hook sometimes like that. Again, really noisy. You don't see anything definite here. Let's go back to reflectivity. I'm going to expand the view and get a full track on that storm. Again, just to the southeast of Shakota. And it definitely has an orientation that is troubling in this environment, and the rotation has been really gotten quite a bit stronger with it. As we check velocity from Fort Smith, again, same area just to the southeast of Shakota right now, in the Shakota area, and moving to the northeast. Let's do a track on this too, because this has been our strongest circulation that we've seen so far. And this is going to be very close to Davis Airport and Braggs and Warner. So Warner, Kiefton on Highway 64. Of course, Kiefton had a damaging tornado back in 1973. The McLean community by 7:10, Greenleaf State Park at 7:19, community of Braggs at about 7:20, and Camp Gruber there too on the east side of the Muskogee River, of the Arkansas River, southeast of Muskogee. So this is going to pass out of McIntosh County and into southern Muskogee County fairly soon. Again, the atmosphere hasn't been super set up for this north of Interstate 40, but that appears to be changing as we watch these circulations that continue. Here we are just to the southeast of Shakota. From Tulsa, it's not quite as sharp of a rotation as things were just a little bit before. But again, the long-term trend from these will be a decrease in rotation as they move to the northeast. But that's still a pretty stout rotation in the Shakota area right now. Let me take this over and back to the northeast. So this is going to be passing just to the southeast of Rentiesville, unless it takes a little bit of a turn back toward the left of its original path. So again, it looks like we're reforming that circulation just to the east of Shakota. I see kind of two centers of rotation here. So broadly put, the threat area is just a few miles to the east of Shakota and moving to the northeast. Eventually, Kiefton area here between Warner and the Davis Field Airport too. We go back to reflectivity. Again, we don't see a whole lot in here. These aren't supercell thunderstorms with big classic hook echoes that you're probably familiar with, but they are embedded circulations that can produce damage and tornadoes. We've already seen damage in Ada and in Allen in Pontotoc County, but that's our center of rotation. Let me reposition that, and I'll put an updated track on here too as this continues moving to the northeast. Again, don't rely on the exact times, rely on the path a little bit more, but this is going to be close to Kiefton by about 7:10, and that's coming up here 15 to 20 minutes. McLean area, Greenleaf State Park, eventually Braggs and Camp Gruber is going to be very close to Davis Airport, south side of Muskogee too, as that circulation continues moving toward the northeast. And again, so far that's been the strongest one that we have seen this morning, at least in our area. We look further to the north in this tornado warning zone, even into parts of Wagoner County. I don't see any super alarming signs that we've got tight rotation developing. We will watch this area along Highway 69, just southwest of Muskogee closely. Again, the greens and reds getting close together and getting a couple of pixels of brighter red, a couple of pixels of brighter green, not only along Highway 69, but right along the McIntosh and Muskogee County line. And I bet if we looked at the reflectivity, again, we just see kind of a general orientation of northwest to southeast right in here. So we're going to really focus on that as it moves to the northeast. But the tornado warnings continue. McIntosh, Wagoner, Muskogee, the north one for until 7:15. McIntosh and Muskogee, this circulation going to run until 7:30. McIntosh and Pittsburgh County until 7 o'clock. And Latimer and Pushmataw, the very southernmost circulation, that's in effect until 7:15. Fox 23 meteorologist Laura Mock also here as we continue to watch what appears to be the strongest circulation in parts of eastern McIntosh County moving into Muskogee County right now as well.
Yeah, that is still our strongest circulation that we have ongoing, and it's the most concerning as it has the potential of causing damage, if not from a tornado, then even just the strong winds associated with it. We have this entire line tornado warned at the moment from Wagner County through Muskogee County down into McIntosh County, and we even have far southern Pittsburgh County tornado warned too, going into Latimer County. But our really biggest concern right now is right here. Every little notch that you see is a potential rotation and a potential tornado trying to form. But I'm going to come in closer here to the Shakota area. You see those really bright greens next to the red? That's the area that we're watching. The rotation on this is going to be really close to I-40, just kind of on the north side there. So right about in here, approaching the Warner area. If you're in Warner, if I was in Warner right now, I would absolutely be heading to my safe place, even just with those strong winds associated with this. So this is going to be coming into the southern Muskogee County area, approaching Weber's Falls here soon. Braggs, you're included in this tornado warning as well, associated with this rotation. So this is going to be kind of coming into the Arkansas River Basin here very soon, close to the Muskogee Turnpike as well, pretty close to where the Muskogee Turnpike is approaching I-40. This is east of Shakota at the moment, so Shakota kind of clear from that rotation, but let's take a look up to the north and take a look at some of our other possible areas of rotation. Still in a tornado warning up through the rest of Muskogee County and into Wagner County, and that's because of these little spots right here. You have one to the east of Haskell, northwest of Muskogee, so that's probably going to be closer to the Porter area. You have a little bit of a nudge with the velocities showing rotation possibly trying to get started. You have another one just west of Davis Airport on the south side of Muskogee. Again, the strongest one situated to the south, but we have to watch every single little nook and cranny along this line. All right, let's bring this all the way down to the south, and we'll take a look at this tornado warning. It's been a minute since we've taken a look at this. This is making its way through kind of out of Pittsburgh County at this point, but tracking into southern Latimer County, Veterans Colony, right in the line of that, Tallahena as well. Wilburton, right in the center of town, you are not included in this tornado warning, but it may be something to watch very closely as the storm continues off to the northeast. All right, let me get a big picture of everything, and we're going to kind of reset here. Looking at the big picture of eastern Oklahoma, Tulsa Metro has been able to avoid the severe thunderstorm warnings, the tornado warnings. We've had a lot of heavy rain, some localized flooding at times, maybe even small hail, but the strongest of the activities just off to the southeast. So into Wagner County, take a look at this. These tornado warnings stretch through Muskogee, down all the way almost to McAllister, and then just on the other side of McAllister. And the severe thunderstorm warnings continue all the way down into Texas too. Let's start from the north again, and we're going to put a track on some of these rotations this time. So as we look into Wagner County and Muskogee County, get a quick look at where our rotations are. And as James was saying, the timing on this is not going to be perfect, but the general track of this is what to pay attention to. Into Wagner, we would be seeing, if this were to hold together, coming into Wagner closer to about 7:15, maybe even a little bit earlier. That's about 10 to 15 minutes away. As we get into Sequoia Bay area, so out by the lake, that's going to be just after 7:15. You have about 15 to 20 minutes to go. All right, let's take a look at a different little notch here. This is on the south side of Muskogee, and as we bring that forward, I'm going to try and catch the Braggs area. So on the south side of Muskogee, just here in a few minutes, you don't really have that long before that gets to you. It's not very strong, but it's going to be one of those spots to monitor. Braggs closer to 7:15, so you have about 15 minutes to go with that. All right, let's clear that off, get another look off to the south, and get some more storm tracks on here. And now that stronger rotation just on the east side of Shakota, you still have the really bright colors associated with it, but it doesn't look like the rotation is as tight as it was. It's approaching the Warner area, and if I were in Warner, I'd be taking shelter just in case, even if it's just with that straight line wind damage. We're going to be getting into the Weber's Falls Dam area between 7:10, 7:15. Again, the timing not going to be perfect on this, but you have about 10 minutes to go before that's really into your area. Greenleaf State Park closer to 7:15 as well. 10 Killer State Park 7:25, and Burnt Cabin Marina out on the lake just before 7:30. As we take a look again off to the south, we'll get a storm track on those as well. Let's go down all the way to southern Latimer County, and the rotation on this one looks to be just on the northwest side of Clayton. This is going to be tracking into southern Latimer County, eventually over to Leflore County too. The timing, not perfect, but the general track of this is what to pay attention to. Yanish, 7:08, Tallahena, closer to 7:30. So Tallahena, you have about 30 minutes to go. Just kind of keep an eye on this storm as it gets closer to you. Tallahena and Leflore not included in any warnings just yet, but you are kind of next in line for this storm. For the Leflore area, arrival could be closer to 7:40. So our line continues. And it still looks like our strongest activity is over by Warner, but the rotation on this, actually, I'm going to get another look at that. Let's see. Let's go back up here. And you still have the really bright colors between Shakota and Warner. This is south of Muskogee, approaching right about where the Muskogee Turnpike meets up with I-40. And what I'm seeing, or at least I'm monitoring, you have the bright colors, and a minute ago it didn't look like it was really tight, but you may have a little bit of a notch here on the north side of Warner that is worth monitoring. That is right as it's approaching 64 north of I-40 on the north side of Warner. We've had the bright colors associated with this. It is still in the tornado warning in effect until, let's see, this one goes to, all right, I'm waiting for the graphic. All right, this one goes until 7:15. So we have about 15 minutes left on this tornado warning. Wouldn't be surprised to see this one extended here in a little bit as it continues off to the east. We're about halfway through the polygon. So right about there is where we're going to be watching. North of Warner, this is going to be approaching the Webbers Falls Dam area pretty quickly. Get a quick check of CC, and honestly, that's kind of a mess. So nothing clear. But when you look at the reflectivity, that's what kind of caught my attention, is you're starting to see a notch with the reflectivity too. A little bit more of a hook where winds are pushing out closer to Warner, and some of the inflow winds are coming in here on the north side. So that rotation may be trying to strengthen up just a little bit more as it approaches 64 and the Muskogee Turnpike. And every little scan that we get updating that just kind of makes me a little more concerned with it. And we're still kind of leaning back northwest to southeast orientation. I have not seen anything confirming that we have a tornado ongoing with it, but it is something I'm keeping a very close eye on. So again, a little bit closer, you can see Webbers Falls Dam in the direct path of this, Greenleaf State Park too. And if this were to continue off to the northeast, we would be approaching the 10 Killer State Park area, probably a little bit north of that, just kind of on the northern side of 10 Killer Lake. So if you're kind of in that area, that'd be where I would be watching closely. We still have team coverage here this morning. Chief Meteorologist James Adelot is here monitoring things as well. We've just kind of been looking up and down this line, making sure we're trying to catch every single little rotation that we can find, because that's just the situation this morning with QLCS lines. QLCS tornadoes are ones that happen really quick. They get just these little bit of rotation going. You can get a tornado trying to develop, and then it's done maybe 10, 15 minutes later. But along the line, as it continues forward, it could try and strengthen up again, or maybe you get a different rotation ongoing a little bit down the line. Looks like really most of our activity here at this point is between Wagner County and I-40, with just a little bit of activity off to the south. We're watching every little rotation closely, and that's why we have team coverage this morning, so we can have eyes on all of it. James, you're here this morning. What do you got?
As we look in the Tulsa area, the rain continues, but no severe weather threat for the city of Tulsa, Broken Arrow, Owasso, Sand Springs, Bixby, Jenks. But we have had a lot of rain. Roads are wet, so plan a little extra time for your morning commute. As we look into southeast Oklahoma, it's this line from just in the Muskogee area all the way into Pushmataha County that has caused the trouble and the tornado warnings. We still have 3 tornado warnings ongoing in our area. Laura did a great job of taking those piece by piece, but again, as we look into parts of Latimer County right now, the southernmost part of this circulation and this line of storms with rotation, let me stop the motion and we'll put velocity on. And again, right along the county line just to the northwest of Clayton, that's the spot that could have potential for a spin-up tornado as this moves to the northeast at about 40 miles per hour. Again, sometimes these angle just a little bit to the left of their path. So Yanish, Veterans Colony, Bingle area in southern Latimer County looks like, as this, unless it takes a really sharp turn, will stay to the southeast of our friends in Wilburton. Let's go further north along this line into our next tornado warned storm, and that one has been very persistent with rotation that has developed in the Shakota area a few minutes ago, but we still have some pretty bright colors here just now in crossing Highway 64 and moving up to the Muskogee Turnpike just close to Davis Field, maybe just southeast of Davis Field. And again, that's what we're kind of looking for here. We can check correlation coefficient. Again, I don't oftentimes see any kind of indication of debris with these QLCS type tornadoes because they're just so brief, and that's a really good sign. But we do have some rotation in the Davis Field area, Davis Airport area, and also just a little bit further to the south now, just to the northeast of Kiefton. Let me expand the view because I want to get that vantage point from the Fort Smith radar in here, and that's going to be just a little bit different vantage point, but it's a little higher in the storm. But again, we've got indications of pretty strong rotation just to the southeast of Davis Airport. As this moves to the northeast, this is going to be very close to Braggs as it crosses the Arkansas River. Here's Peak Boulevard, Muskogee Turnpike right here. So again, if we were going to plant the most likely area to see this spin-up tornado occur, it's in this tornado warning, very close to Davis Airport and moving to the northeast, crossing the Muskogee Turnpike here just in the next few minutes, and that's going to eventually head up across the Arkansas River and into the Braggs area too. So I want to do one more thing, and that is to take a look at the terminal Doppler radar from Tulsa. Again, it's going to be a little bit noisier, but this is a higher resolution look. Again, the circulation looks like it's between Davis Airport and Braggs. If I was in Braggs right now, I'd take your tornado precautions. That means go to the lowest level, center part, smallest room of your home. Again, the circulation center is a little tough to find, but looks like Braggs, Qualls, Woodall, Pettit. If this holds together, it would likely cross over the county line into parts of Cherokee County, mainly just to the south of Tahlequah. Let's go back to reflectivity right now. We're looking right into this area. It looks like the circulation has crossed or is on top of the Muskogee Turnpike just barely to the southeast of Muskogee right now. Those tornado warnings are in effect until 7:15. That'll likely be extended. Storm center coverage continues on our radio partner KRMG this morning with the tornado warnings in Wagoner and Muskogee County as we watch these circulations. Again, quick hit circulations. They spin up quickly, they get fairly strong, and they just thankfully don't last very long either. But we're looking just to the west of Braggs here. Let's go back to velocity and we'll get another update. And again, looks like we're centered again west of Braggs, just east of Davis Airport. That is an increasing circulation here. This is south of Peak Boulevard in southeastern parts of Muskogee. And if this holds together, we're going to be crossing the Muskogee Turnpike where the old toll plaza was, and then continuing to lift to the northeast, crossing the Arkansas River, eventually getting up toward Highway 10, and perhaps making it up just to the east of Fort Gibson too as it gets over toward the Cherokee County line. But looks like that tornado warning was just reconfigured a little bit, but that's the circulation that we're watching. Since we're zoomed in this far, I'll go ahead and take another look at the terminal Doppler radar, and again, it looks like this is probably crossing the Muskogee Turnpike, getting into some of the purples and reds, and it's just a little bit noisier with the terminal Doppler, but it does give us a nice high-resolution look at that storm. Again, crossing over, it's already now on the east side of the Muskogee Turnpike now, and moving up toward the Arkansas River, and eventually will be crossing Highway 10 as it moves up fairly close to Fort Gibson. So again, we'll put that circulation just to the southeast of Muskogee and moving to the northeast between Fort Gibson, Braggs, and Camp Gruber. again, if this holds together, we'll be extending the tornado warning into Cherokee County, but that main threat area continues along and south of Highway 62. The overall breakdown, our 2 tornado warnings continue for Wagoner and Muskogee County, and now also into parts of southern Latimer County and southeastern Pittsburgh County, even though it looks like that threat has moved into Latimer County and out of Pittsburgh County. Definitely, we can give you the stand down in Pittsburgh County. The warning officially in effect for about 6 more minutes, but the main severe weather threat from this is going to be moving across Latimer County. Once it gets out of Latimer and Haskell County, that's over into Sequoia and LaFleur County and out of our coverage area. And the northern storm, that's going to be in with us for a little bit longer. Let's take a little closer look here too at that storm. You can see the motions taking quickly through the city of Muskogee with the main circulation just to the southeast of the city of Muskogee. We'll stop that, zoom in, and I'm going to zoom right into sections of eastern Muskogee County. Let's look at reflectivity now. We'll go back to velocity. Again, we still have some really strong and bright greens and blues next to some fairly strong reds. So odds of getting a spin-up circulation a little higher right here. And you can see there's a new severe thunderstorm warning just issued. Now, it's important to note as these storms move east, they're still moving into an atmosphere that is slowly less supportive of these rotations. So when a storm develops this magnitude of rotation, though, oftentimes it can hold on to that threat of producing a tornado at least for a few minutes into less supportive air. And again, the less supportive air is not an immediate thing. It's a gradual decrease in the support for these rotating thunderstorms. But again, watching parts of this line that have leaned back northwest to southeast, and here's one just to the southeast of Muskogee. That's that persistent rotation we've been kind of following all the way since it developed close to Shakota, and that's continuing to move to the northeast. Again, I want to take another quick look at the terminal Doppler radar in here. And again, it looks like the circulation's just to the northwest of Braggs. It's a little noisy with this radar picture and not quite as broad, not quite as tight as it was earlier. It's a little bit broader, so perhaps this one now is starting to slowly weaken too. Back into the city of Tulsa, the rain continues, most of it much lighter right now with no severe weather threat ongoing in Tulsa or Broken Arrow. That severe weather threat continues to push to the east. Let me reframe that just a little bit for you, and you can see all of those warnings that are in effect southeast of Tulsa, even in parts of Wagoner County. But remember, as this line races east at 40 miles per hour, it is moving into that atmosphere that's not quite as supportive of tornado development, but we're still watching for that very closely. The tornado threat, I would say, should be winding down during the next hour. How quickly that happens, of course, up to how quickly these thunderstorms lose that organization. But we still have some active circulations taking place, eastern parts of Muskogee County and moving into southern Latimer County too, with no threat at all in Tulsa. Let's check in with Fox 23 meteorologist Laura Bach. Also been watching these storms closely, and it's at least down to those 2 warnings.
Yeah, at least those 2 warnings are what we're watching. The one down to the south seems to have lost some of that strength and should be expiring here in just a few minutes. So our 2 warnings for, let's see, Wagner, Muskogee coming out of McIntosh County still in effect until 7:15 and 7:30. So we still got some time to go, and I would not be surprised to see this one in Muskogee County extended into Cherokee County here soon. Let's go ahead and stop this real quick. I do want to kind of go over those tornado tips just in case it's been a while. It's just the beginning of March, and it's been a minute since we've had some tornado warnings. So as a reminder, if you find yourself under one of these tornado warnings, make sure to get some shoes on, get the pets, the kids all together. Some of the kids may be already off to school at this point, so schools may be trying to get their tornado precautions in place just in case. Lowest level of whatever building you're in, most interior room is going to be your best option in situations like this. And if you find yourself under one of these tornado warnings, go ahead and take action. It may be 10, 15 at the most maybe 30 minutes that you're there, and then the storm will be past and you can head on out. So just take it seriously while those warnings are being issued for your area. All right, let's clear that off and go spot by spot through these storms. As we come in a little bit closer here, we're going to come in first to the northern edge of the line, make sure we don't have any other little quick spin ups as we're getting ready to get out of that tornado warning. And you can see we're leaning, this line is leaning from northwest to southeast, but there's not as many little notches in here, especially in the northern half of the line. When it looks a little straighter, that's better for us. That means we don't have many of those rotations ongoing. Now, just off to the south, closer to Fort Gibson, this is the one that we've been concerned about, and this is the one that we would not be surprised being continued with another tornado warning, possibly it being issued closer to the Tahlequah area. So if I was in Tahlequah, I'd be on high alert, and as soon as that tornado warning is issued, if it is, then I would go ahead and take action. This is one of those spots that it has been rotating for a while now, and it still has the potential to try and tighten up just a little bit more, even though right now it doesn't look very tight, but the winds associated with this are strong enough to be concerning. Let's look down to the south, and not as concerning, which is good news for us. The rotations on these just not as strong. You still have a little bit of a notch here on the southeast side of Veterans Colony, approaching the Talihina area. So you're kind of up in the mountains in this spot. This rotation is not as strong as it could be, but this is still another spot to watch as it continues off to the northeast. All right, so there is that tornado warning dropping off the map. Let me give you a bigger look. We got to that 7:15 mark, and so some of those tornado warnings that were in effect until 7:15 have dropped off the map, and now we have a lot of severe thunderstorm warnings, but only one tornado warning left, still in effect for another 15 minutes. This is going to be that rotation that we were just talking about closer to Fort Gibson that is our most concerning spot that could continue off to the northeast, potentially into maybe northern portions of Sequoyah County, possibly into Cherokee County as well. That is our, as for the Tulsa area, we've already seen the heavy rain come through, and you still have more rain behind it, but the severe weather threat for Tulsa wrapping up. I know some of you got some localized flooding, maybe some small hail. But our focus right now is this one tornado warning in southern Muskogee County. Let's take another look at the rotation on this. This is Fort Gibson down toward Braggs. It looks like in the tornado warning, it's really not looking too concerning. We're kind of on the north side, south side of Fort Gibson, again tracking off to the northeast, possibly closer to Tahlequah. You can see the bright colors, the blue-green next to the red. Just north of Braggs, kind of on the south side of Fort Gibson, if we were to bring this forward into Tahlequah. General idea on the timing, Sequoyah High School, 7:36, getting into Horseshoe Bend, 7:41, Tahlequah, 7:42. So you have, let's say, about 20 minutes to go before that is going to start tracking into Tahlequah. But through that time, we're going to be tracking all the way across portions of Cherokee County here. All right, so there's the track on that. Really, that's our most concerning spot in terms of any rotation and tornado potential. Otherwise, we've had a severe thunderstorm warning extended now all the way over almost to the Arkansas state line. This now includes LaFleur County, the rest of Haskell County, the rest of Latimer County too. This one going to be in effect until 8 a.m. So again, we just have one tornado warning, which is good news for us. We've been able to clear off a lot of the map. Current tornado warning still has about 10 minutes to it. The rotation on this not looking as strong. The line in itself is still going to be bringing a straight line wind threat, maybe small hail associated with it. Of course, the heavy rain too, which is just going to make driving very messy for us. But the tornado potential does seem to be coming down. As we've been saying throughout this entire coverage, we are seeing these storms move into an area that is a little weaker for any of this to try and develop. And so it looks like some of that is starting to take shape. And that was our tornado warning dropped off the map. James, let's kind of get one last check with you and we'll kind of wrap.
Yeah, again, as you talked about, as you kind of walked us through that play-by-play, these circulations were getting a little more disorganized and not as strong. Tulsa, we still have rain, and it is a very wet drive to work and school. We look to the southeast of Tulsa, and now, thankfully, just severe thunderstorm warnings now from Cherokee County into southern Muskogee and Sequoia and Haskell and into Latimer County, but no tornado warnings. There are the severe thunderstorm warnings all east of Tulsa right now. Severe thunderstorm watch north of 412. Tornado watch still in effect in our area southeast of Tulsa. That's officially in effect till 11 o'clock, but it looks like that threat for spin-up tornadoes has ended, at least for now. This whole system is actually going to get a little stronger as it moves east into parts of Arkansas, Mississippi, and Louisiana, with severe weather potential continuing there. But for Tulsa, just wet, no additional severe weather threat in the metro area, and we will watch these severe thunderstorms with wind gusts, the primary threat, continue to slowly decrease in intensity as they approach the Arkansas-Oklahoma state line. But for now, it looks like we can restart Fox 23 News this morning as we get back to the news of the day. And so far, a lot of the news of the day has been weather. So we will continue to watch that. Meteorologist Laura Mock will be back here in just a couple of minutes with the full forecast for the rest of the day and looking ahead through the rest of the week, too. Severe weather in Green Country can develop quickly and put you in danger.
Whether it's thunderstorms, hail, flooding, or tornadoes.
We'll give you the most accurate and up-to-the-minute information.
We can do a track on that one because these storms are moving pretty quickly.
So you'll know
where the storm's moving, how long it will last, and when to take shelter.
When it really matters, turn to Tulsa's Chief Meteorologist James Adelot and a Fox 23 severe weather team to keep you and your family safe.